that the wrong one? That's Star Trek.
I hope you're not offending somebody.
Well, those are space gang signs.
Well, save that for Atlas, would you? Jeez, you're giving away everything. MetaMentors, episode number 27, back at it again. Ember Sword, number 7, just after Next Earth, just before Treeverse, of the largest market cap. And we're going down the list. Ember Sword here is an MMORPG game that's been at it for some time. Let's take a look. Some pretty legit graphics, but before we jump into that, you know what else is legit is our disclaimer and our need for our disclaimer, and probably this week's news, because it's always legit in the crypto world, the Web3 world. So what do you got?
Hopefully there's never a legit need for our disclaimer, but just so we're all legally safe, nothing we're saying is financial advice. Do your own research. This is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Starting off this week, Alex Mashinsky resigns as the CEO of Celsius Network after basically the customers have told him to get lost. Now Celsius Network went down with like Luna and all of those big crashes. So they're bankrupt. They started locking people out of their accounts, couldn't get to their life savings. So I've got an article here that we'll link below that talks about him being obviously in charge during that time. And he has a quote here that says, in his resignation letter, he expressed regret that his role as CEO has become an increasing distraction. They're trying to pull out of this. They're trying to decide whether they're going to get bought out or whether they are going to rise from the ashes. And he has said that him being in the role as CEO is nothing but a distraction at this point. So this week, he finally stepped down. Alex Mashinsky. And I don't know if that name's come up, but Celsius definitely has when we're talking about the dangers of investing in the crypto world. This is one of the big ones. It was when all that stuff was going on, they finally made it to where you couldn't withdraw out of your accounts. Like it wasn't technically affiliated, but all of a sudden people couldn't get into their accounts. Then they couldn't withdraw out of their accounts. And then everything dropped and there was no money in their accounts. So
yeah.
No good, but maybe with him leaving, that's the start, that's the bottom, and now they can build up from here. I think that's one of the ones that's been kicked around between Binance and FTX as a possible acquisition. So that would be interesting to see. Next up, before I switch over to that picture, I want to kind of set the scene. I was reading on Milk Road, which if you don't follow Milk Road, that's a great source for just quick, fun fact, Web3 and crypto stuff. I was reading about, they were talking about different countries that are having financial issues right now. Lebanon is one of the big ones, and how crypto can be a way to get out of that. So Lebanon's suffering one of the worst economic collapses since the 19th century. Due to inflation, the Lebanese pound has lost 90% of its value in the last 3 years. And now, since 2019, 2020, banks are almost having like optional, even if you have money in the bank, they're deciding whether or not you need it and are able to pull it out. So that's obviously causing a little bit of stress. And the point of this article I was reading on Milk Road is how crypto can save you from having to take these measures, because it says now citizens are taking things into their own hands. So let me see if I can show you what we got going on here. This is a video of a hostage situation in Lebanon at a major bank in downtown Beirut, where an armed man is holding the bank staff hostage just until he gets the money that belongs to him out of his bank account.
Damn.
And yeah. So he's not letting.
Yeah, clearly this wasn't premeditated either. He's wearing flip-flops.
No, he's got flip-flops. You never take over a bank wearing flip-flops. That's day one. That's not tactical flip-flops.
He showed up to get his money and said, said no, and he said, I'll be right back.
He probably went to his car and got that, and he said it's around 200,000, and they're not giving him any of it. And so he's just furious. So the point of the article was talking about how crypto can give you options around, obviously, traditional finance. And then after this video went viral, there were 7 more holdups across the country, 5 of them happening the next day. So people are literally grabbing their guns and going to the bank. And I don't know if they're successful. I don't know if they actually got their money out, but it's a pretty interesting situation, and probably not as comical as I'm making it in my head. In a real life situation, if I had $200,000 in a bank and the bank wouldn't give it to me, then it becomes necessary to maybe find something, an alternate method of withdrawing that. So to just circumnavigate all of that, one of the great things that we talk about is having money in stable coins, which is really what that article is pushing. Is a lot of Lebanese people are finding stable coins, any kind of stable coin, because it's even in the current decline, even with all the other countries' inflation, it's not as bad as Lebanon's inflation. So just one more way that crypto in the fake world, in the cyberspace, in the metaverse, is helping in real world applications. And anything we can do to avoid a situation like this, I would say, deserves some attention. Next up, Apple is now allowing NFT sales. Hold on, this ain't scrolling here. No, I don't want any news and updates. All right, Apple is now allowing NFT sales in their stores, but obviously, because it's Apple, immediately 30% commission fees. So we're getting a lot of. There is a good point and a bad point. Well, you know what I'm saying. There's good and bad to all of these, but I've got 2 tweets from 2 big accounts that make sense in both directions. Immediately, I was like, of course, Apple is taking 30% right off the bat, and they've always blocked kind of NFT sales, and you're not allowed to push it. You're not allowed to have them leave the app. Apple's a very closed system. Yeah. So the money gets spent in there. You buy Apple products. They don't allow secondhand sellers. Everything has to go through Apple. So it's been a very tight system to do anything that would exist on the blockchain, because obviously then you're allowed to get around that kind of stuff. So Tim Sweeney, who makes a great point here about how Apple is killing the NFT app business because it can't tax it. And the fact that they're taxing 30%, right off the bat, that'll kill a lot of projects, a lot of small coins, a lot of small market cap. If you've got the option to go somewhere else and not pay 30% more, they just can't afford to do business with Apple, which is a good point. And Apple, to me, is a little bit like Facebook and is a necessary evil, but in limited quantities. Use them as little as possible. That's my philosophy. I know everybody's got an iPhone. My wife has an iPhone, but I use Apple as little as possible, because if I need a charger, I'm just going to go buy the cheapest charger. If I need an app, I want to be able to download it. I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it's probably full of viruses. I need it. I need it now. I want to be able to do that kind of stuff. So he's got a good point, and I immediately agreed with him. And then somebody said, well, there's other, there are other views, and I did look at it. And as much as I hate to get outside of my own views, this guy, Gabriel Layden, he says, well, selling NFTs inside games and apps, it's 30% cut. But if he said, let me see, I'm not reading it right. Without realizing this could put an Ethereum wallet in every single mobile game, onboarding over 1 billion players. Because Apple's so big, because they have 1 billion users, and now they're finally allowing it, even a 30% cut when your whole network is growing by a potential 1 billion players, 1 billion people using it, that brings everything up. And and like Coinbase and some of the other centralized exchanges that we don't really, that once you get into it, you start to realize, man, their fees are kind of rough. It's still a great way to get exposed to the cryptocurrency and the Web3 market. So if this does, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right.
I was going to say, it makes me think of something that someone told me. I didn't know this until a couple months ago. It reminds me of like Walmart. If you're a vendor within Walmart, like one of the privileges of doing business with Walmart, world's largest retailer, is you got to stock your own shelves. You got to do they have these they have these intricate things that cost you money as a business, or not fun or not traditional. Nobody else requires you to brush your teeth right before you walk in the Walmart store or whatever it is. But if you want to do business with the largest retailer, then you got to do this. And does anybody say no? Nope. They're all like, yep, we'll do that.
That brushing your teeth thing must only be for the vendors, not for the shoppers, because since I've been back in America, I've been trying to find a Walmart that I don't feel like getting stabbed in, and I have not found one yet. So,
well, there goes most of our viewers right there.
Let's see. So that's a 1, 2, 3. That's what I've got for news today. So I think we're ready. If you're ready to jump into EMBER SWORD and start to figure out the backstory on this MMORPG.
Yeah, man. There's so many of these. EMBER SWORD is, like you and I talked about prior to this, EMBER SWORD was one of those that the name kept coming up, but we kind of bypassed it. We never got into it too deeply. And I think because it didn't, to me, I kind of, in the beginning, I was kind of driving I was driving a lot of the decision on what we were going to cover week to week. And although the graphics look pretty cool, it just didn't call to me like some of these other ones do. So we kind of bypassed it. Obviously, you pulled the market cap on these things, and it is way up there. So you can't ignore programs like this. And like a lot of them, it has a great story. No disregard to that. So let's kind of jump into it. So largest market cap MMORPG, taking the place in a player-driven universe where their adventure finds you. I thought that was kind of a cool way to put it. And I'm not the gamer, you are. So I think part of my disconnect here and not understanding is I never played like World of Warcraft or some of these other games. Now I played Zelda and some of those initial kind of, and that wasn't an MMORPG, but that I kind of think when I look at this game, I think of Zelda because you wander the world, or like you brought up a Grand Theft Auto, which is a much different version, but where you can do pretty much whatever you want in the world is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Zelda's an RPG. It's a precursor to the MMORPG. And when we show the gameplay on here, you'll definitely see there is a lot of likeness to all of the Zelda games. The way you travel around the map, the way you combat, and the way you're looking for gold and ore and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a good comparison to the original. Well, to really the whole Zelda franchise, the way that this game is put together.
Well, and so much of the way that I work is trying to relate or compare and contrast these different projects against other ones, because that's how, that's basically how I kind of rank them in my brain. Is I'm comparing them against the other ones that we've looked at, and I'm kind of just automatically ranking them as we go about. That's not necessarily fair because all of these projects are into something, you know, a little bit different. And one of the things that they have in common, or at least these ones that are getting all the attention, that are gaining all the money and momentum, is they're trying to reinvent the whole gaming environment. Like, and to do that takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of creativity. And this Ember Sword is no different. They've been at it since 2018. And it's the same thing. You had a group of guys come together that basically said, you know what? I think we do a better job in creating a game than what's currently out there. And there's this thing called blockchain that we can build off of that allows players to own the assets. So what's better than having a, you know, multiplayer game that can come in and build on lands and manipulate the game and just make it their own and make it more fun for other players? What's better than that? Well, what's better is being able to actually own the assets along the way.
True ownership. That's right.
True ownership never gets old. Although a lot of hardcore gamers are not on board with that yet. They think it's going to ruin the whole game environment. But these projects are quickly changing this. Ember Sword is no stranger to the technology of AI, which is obviously showing up everywhere. Just in the last 3 to 6 months, we're hearing AI in normal conversations outside of Web3 and blockchain. So more and more is it becoming, you know, everyday topic, I guess you could say. One of the ways they're using AI is they're programming it in as you go throughout this game, and you're doing whatever, you know, whether you're going fishing today on Ember Sword or battling other people with, you know, your weapons or whatever. They're using AI to constantly keep that momentum going, and also the experience is fresh is the best way I think to explain it. Is it's like in Zelda, you know, if I went, you know, it was always the same lands. Once you played it enough, you were always visiting the same spots, same lands. You have that here, but you're not going to see the same characters day in, day out. You may go to the same spot that you were yesterday on Ember Sword, but you could have a whole new set of characters that weren't there the day before. And that, to me, that's when it really started kind of open up my brain about what was going on here. Like it's a new adventure all the time, which you from getting bored with a game. Like I keep using Zelda. I don't know if that's the best example, but for me, that's what I relate to. You played Zelda enough times, you got tired of it because you're seeing the same crap over and over and over again. Here, it's constantly evolving through AI and other players changing and doing things. It's almost like playing a new game every time you're on there.
Yeah, and that's the sentence that you read on the last page where it says, "Where adventure finds you." That there's way more to that sentence than just a generic, "Oh, that sounds fun." When they say adventure finds you, it starts to learn your gameplay. It starts to learn what kind of stuff you like to do. And you'll have an NPC come up to you or a situation presented to you where they say, "Hey, do you want to go look for some gold?" You know what I mean? Whatever you've been doing, it's like they kind of just test you, and they kind of say, "Hey, what are you looking for? Hey, you want to go fishing? Hey, you want to go racing? Hey, would you like to go learn how to shoot your bow?" Like, you kind of just wander around this world like a standard MMO RPG, obviously. You know, you kind of wander around the world and you can do whatever you want, but you're presented with opportunities to go do stuff that you may not have known existed. So when they say, you know, that the adventure finds you, that's the AI in there learning what you're playing. You know, if you're always racing, but it's doing the same thing, maybe one day you'll have, you know, something pop up to you and say, "Hey, you want to go try this over here in this part of the woods that not a lot of people know about?" And you have the opportunity to say no, which is great because you're not following, because it's the RPG, you're not following a standard level, you know, like Mario Brothers, where you finish 1, you finish 2, you finish 3. You have the opportunity to say, "No, actually, all I want to do all day is cut down trees and gather wood." I mean, if that's, you know, if you were trying to build a giant fort or something, and you're like, "I know it looks like I'm not having any fun, but this is what I want to do. I just want to chop down trees all day." So you could say no. But if they come to you again and say, "Hey, what about now?" You can say, "Let's do it." So
yeah,
it's very unique.
it's that immersive environment. It makes me think of when I've taken my kids to Disney World. Like you show up at Disney World and you're like, okay, you have this, you kind of have a loose plan maybe, and you're like, okay, we're going to Magic Kingdom today, and everybody agrees we definitely want to ride these rides. And so in your mind, you're like, okay, we'll just make our way around the park. Well, as you're going, you got characters that are having theater here and doing this, and they're coming out to you, and they're like, hey, you want to come check out our new ice cream? We're having an ice cream social right now. You should come over. Or hey, we're having a puppet show. And it's so immersive that you're drawn into all these different things, and you're getting these different experiences constantly, moment to moment, day after day, which I could really see where you could get sucked in for hours and days, and that's playing something like this.
The beauty of it is they're giving you the real world choice to choose, but they're giving you a much more exciting than the real world level of options to choose from. You know what I mean? Like you said, it is like Disney World. It's like, rather than just wandering around all day and, I could do whatever I want today, but my options are limited because I got no money and I'm in a house and I got no car. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, that's not that fun. But if you go into Ember Sword, or do you remember what the name of I've got it written down here somewhere, what the giant land is in Ember Sword, what the nation or the kingdom?
Somberland. Oh no, you're talking about the actual. You're not talking about the solar wood. You're talking about the actual. It's a moon, is what it is, I think.
The whole land. Yeah. Anyways, Oh, there we go. The four nations of Thanubus. Thanabus. Thanubus. The four nations of Thanubus. So yeah, you can go to the four nations of Thanubus and do whatever you want. You'll have all the different options, and it allows you to have the choice to do whatever you want, as exciting or as unexciting as you'd like.
Yeah, and I thought that when I was listening, and I'm getting ready to I have a clip or two I was going to play, and then I'll let you get into the gameplay. But I thought that was kind of interesting, is the CEO or the main guy for this in some of the interviews. He was talking about how you don't normally hear somebody talking like this when they're talking about a game. But he was like, if you want to go fishing all day, you jump online, click away, and you go fishing all day. And the thing about fishing is there's special loot chests that are in these sources of water that you might pull out a very special item that might be worth, $100 or tens of dollars to sell in tokens or whatever. And so it was like, you don't have to come on here and battle every time you're on here or do quests. You just come on here and chop wood all day, or come on here and fish all day. Like, it's like, that's a typical video game that would suck, but not when you're looking at it with this type of technology.
Yeah, it depends on how you're looking at it. A lot of the Axian stuff that we talked about, pulling the third world countries out of poverty, because what you can make on Axie in a day is way better. And it's like, it doesn't sound like a lot for you to go be chopping wood, but if it takes a long time to chop wood, and people are trying to get wood so they can build their ships or their trebuchets or their forts or whatever, and you can just, because you actually own that wood, and because it's immediately hooked up to the browser, which means it's immediately hooked up to your wallet, if you could just sell that wood and save somebody 30 minutes of wood chopping time, you could get in there, and that could be your job. You know what I mean? Like, your job could be a lumberjack per se, a woodcutter in a digital game. That could, depending on how much money it makes and depending on how much money you need to make it worth your while, there are options like that exist that you could market yourself. That's not even part of the game. Like, if you're like, no, I don't want to do any quests. I don't want to fight anybody. I'm just going to go out into the woods and I'm going to cut down the trees. And like you said, out in the woods, there's the potential jewel boxes or whatever the high value NFTs are. You might find something like that while you're out there just cutting down, menial wood. You're just trying to make a little bit, but you might find something that you can take back and sell on the marketplace for a good deal of money. And that's a very interesting way to play, because I know there are days, particularly, I know we've talked about this with a lot of these metaverse projects, but I like to just drive, and I don't necessarily need to race. I like racing sometimes, but I would love an open world, and I'm waiting for Wilder World and Wilder Wheels to really pop loose. I would love to just get in my car and go explore these giant, metaverse projects and just go see everything. That's what I like to do rather than fishing. But if you could, drive and see something, or, run packages, or however, deliver stuff, it'll be interesting to see how you can make money playing these games and not necessarily the way they were meant to be played.
On note, here's a quick clip of him just talking about the play to earn gaming and gaming industry again, which this never gets old listening to guys talk about and get into some of the details of this.
Because I know exactly what research you're reading from right now.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Go ahead.
No, but you're totally right. You're right on the money. But let me tell you something even more interesting, right? If you look at the whole games industry, like in full, over the past year, the amount of money that the games industry, that the size of that market is about $139 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what part of that is related to free-to-play games, aka games that you can get into without paying money first? It's $98 billion, right? So the vast majority is coming from games that you can get into for free. In fact, if you look at all the revenues from games that are so-called premium games, these are any games that you have to buy into before you get to play, that's 24 billion. That's not even, that's roughly a quarter of what is coming from free-to-play games. So when we set out to make Ember Sword, we knew we wanted to be that kind of game that everyone can get into, right? Also economically, it's important, because if you're going to be unskilling value for the community that is in ownership of things, you ideally want the largest possible audience to be able to, earn items, buy items, sell items, and create that thriving economy. So if you think about it, right, what we essentially set out to do is we said, okay, we want this game to be free to get into, right? And then we're going to build on one of the largest, in terms of value, right, markets within the gaming space, which is that 40 billion skins and cosmetics market, right?
Yeah, it's like one-third. It's like one-third of the whole thing. Yeah.
And it's larger than all the premium games combined, right? Almost twice as large. So we wanted to make sure that we could bring that big audience. And so this is really the premise sort of behind the economy of Ember Sword, because I've heard, and I fully understand this, because I think when you're like, in sort of the play to earn headspace, there's a lot of games out there that just, let's say, put everything on chain. And a lot of people sort of naturally think that what people pay the most for is things that have some kind of utility that make you stronger in the game. But all of the numbers from the games industry actually show that that's not the case. People are willing to pay more money, spend more on things that make them look unique, make their game experience epic, etc., right? That they can brag about, than they are actually to, willing to pay for things that have a particular utility.
No.
See, and we've talked this, and sometimes we gloss over it, but that's the part that us adults don't understand, that the younger generation does. They will pay real money to look cool or stand out or just for street cred on skins and items within games, non-tangible items within games. And that is $40 billion a year worth of $40 billion a year is being spent on skins and in-game items. Right. That's more than premium games. And of course, those skins are mostly coming from free play to earn games, which Ember Sword is.
Right. Yeah, and I actually agree with that. And I would not have agreed with that if I wasn't if I didn't play PUBG as much as I do and see the amount of money that people spend. That's not a blockchain game. That's just a regular free game to get into, but then you can buy suits and hats and ridiculous outfits, and it in no way makes you run faster. You don't hide any better. You don't shoot any better. It's literally just so when they shoot you and they stand over the top of you, you got killed by a rubber chicken, and they just think that it's funny, and then it looks better when they post it onto YouTube later. So
nothing's more degrading than getting your can
exactly
kicked by a rubber chicken.
And they do stuff like theme stuff, like right now you could buy a jack-o'-lantern head and stuff like that, so it's always changing. And some of them are limited time, so you can buy it and wear it for a little bit. And people are buying, for $4 or $5 a pumpkin head to wear for 2 months in a free game. And then it goes away, and then next year they'll buy it again, or they'll buy something different. And
some of those are limited edition, and if you own it, go up tremendously in value. That you can lease out or sell. Or we're getting into the whole reason for this channel. You're getting into NFTs and opportunities with games to make money or have an income, or at least have assets for the long haul, as opposed to just putting money into the games.
Yep, and that's one of the things that he talked about there, and that he keeps talking about, and I'll probably go over a little bit more when we do gameplay, is the fact that these items are not pay to win games. You can't go buy super boots, for $20 and run faster than everybody. You can't go spend $1,000 and trick your guy out to where nobody on the game can beat them. They're not pay to win, they're pay to play. So you're already playing. You can get new boots, but they just look good. They just, they're just extra. You can get one with your team name on it, or, a symbol or logo that you like, but it's not going to help you win the game. The game is separate from the economy. They don't want it to get to where a couple of rich people get in there and buy everything that you can get and just go around destroying everybody. The game is supposed to be skill-based and kind of time-based, how much time you're willing to put in and do what you need to do. So a pretty good strategy, I think, because that would really, especially if I got in on a freemium game, a free game, and all of a sudden it was like I couldn't even compete because everybody was spending $100 on the best gun you can get, and there was no way I was going to do that. And you just get blown away every time you enter the levels. So all right, so we've been talking about the gameplay. There's a lot of stuff that is obviously unknown at this point. They've released an alpha, and I watched a little bit of that gameplay. That it was just more of the pre-alpha footage, basically. Here, one of the things that is especially unique about this project is this project wasn't drawn up in the last 6 months due to all the excitement with crypto. This announcement teaser trailer that I'm going to play, well, in a couple of weeks will be 4 full years old, which means they've been working on it for a lot longer than that. So this game is probably got a good 5 years under the belt of creation and design work behind it. So I'd like to think the fact that they haven't closed up shop at this point is a good sign. You know what I mean? That's a long time to not have a product, and they don't even have a coin out. There's nothing except for the land sales and private equity that's keeping them afloat. So I got to think that they're holding back a whole great game that we're going to be really impressed with when it does come out. I would just imagine if they had this level of graphics and animation back then, that by now it's even better and the gameplay is great. So we're going to watch this little clip. It's like I said, the teaser trailer announcer from October of 2018.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the original videos capture the essence of
Right,
game
and that's the problem. Is now it's like, okay, here's the game. Now you actually go in there, and the stuff you can find on YouTube is people running around trying to find the game. Obviously, this is the best that the game has to offer. You know what I mean? This is the
Right.
cinematic gameplay trailer that shows you a little bit of everything: the buying, the building, the mining, the fighting, the running around. The combat. So it is the best of everything. I'm sure the game doesn't play quite as fast as that, but that's pretty standard with a 1 minute trailer. But you do get to get a feel for what's all going on there. One, the guy was mining ores, so you get a little bit of ores. You can get that stuff. He went over to some sort of factory and asked him to make him a weapon. Did you see the cat that was sitting on that deal? There's a cat sitting on that machine. I didn't think much about it every time that I've watched it, but I just realized he had a word bubble that popped up above him that time, and it said, "Touch it the fishy." And I don't know what that is, but it does lend to a little bit
sounds
of
like sounds like some appropriate language I use sometimes when I'm talking about
touching it. But I thought, well, that just kind of lends to the, a little bit of the freedom of the group getting to kind of play around and be humorous and knowing that that's a possibility. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes a game like this interesting, is finding little gems like this around, and then I don't know if that's an AI or non-playable character that's mining or that's forging the weapons. But it's like, if your job could be forging the weapons, like you don't even have to go mine. But if you could build yourself a forge and people could bring you the minerals and you could forge them, that could be your job. He ran off and, was trying to place a trebuchet. There's just a whole lot of elements that you see in that 1 minute clip that makes it look like a very enjoyable, playable game. Like a lot of these, it's simple graphics, but very good graphics. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it makes me think of, I thought about this earlier with the wood too. When you're talking about, all you want to do, if all you're doing is going in there and looking for ore and then you're selling it, or chopping wood and selling it, and like with wood, like say there's 5 different types of trees and a certain type of wood from this specific tree, it makes the best for weapons, and where those groves are. Like, yeah. I start to picture real life, that connection between real life trades, and games. If you're in real life, if you know where to get the best wood to make a certain item, and you go do that, and then you sell that wood to lumber yards or you sell it on the weekends at the flea market or whatever to make some side hustle income. Like that, what I'm trying to say is, I'm starting to see that blend with the real world, which we keep hearing about. That's hard to imagine.
It makes sense, because if I go in the game and I just want to fight and I break my weapon, I don't want to go chop down 50 trees and bang up 50 rocks looking for if I could just go spend some gold, buy it from who I need to buy it from, and go get one made, then I can get back to fighting. But yeah, that's, again, we don't know very much about this game. We're kind of speculating with a lot of this stuff, but let's say you've got the choice of a sword or a bow and arrow for fighting, or an axe for cutting, and an axe isn't going to be real effective, especially from distance fighting. So you might not want to spend all your money on a really good axe unless, it's 10 chops to chop down a tree with a basic axe, or 2 to chop it down with a good axe, and your only job is to chop down trees to sell to those people. Maybe you do invest in a good axe and you avoid combat. You just go out in the woods and you're cutting with a good tree, so you're spending more money on your equipment to do the job that you want to do. There's just so many possibilities, especially in a game like this, especially with multiple real world ownership. You could be a sword maker or a sword dealer or a person who's just fighting with swords. I mean, you could just be the final product where you're trying to just go kill and rob as many people. There's a part of this called the Outer Lands or something like that, that are kind of shady areas where where you can go and fight and rob people, basically, which is pretty pretty interesting that they've put that in there, and I like it, because if that's the game that you want to play, that's the game you can. So maybe it makes sense for you to just pay full price for the best sword right off the bat, from the forge, and go rob somebody and pay it off immediately. It's a good business strategy.
Makes sense.
There's 4 nations within this Thenubis, and you get to go around. Obviously, you'll build your area. There's going to be farming, mining. I mean, there's just an open-ended amount of stuff that you'll be able to do. One of the things that they're really pushing with this game is the top-notch animation quality, nice, coherent aesthetic. Everything looks like it goes. The game flows smoothly, and with most of the Web3 games, you don't need like an Xbox or a PlayStation to play it. Ember Sword is playable from within the browser, which is really good for tying it straight into like your crypto wallet. So you'll be able to play it from the browser, hook it straight up, I assume, to your MetaMask. So you'll be able to wheel and deal in real time, and eventually it will be playable on all or most mobiles. And it's the same game, same map, same graphics, same account. So you can literally be playing at home on a big screen and whipping through and doing what you want to do. And when you have to go to your real world job, you can be playing it on your phone, and it's supposed to be a pretty seamless transition. And one of the things that they've done differently than some of these other, a lot of the projects that we've done have built on like Unreal Engine or a similar similar hardware structure. They've created their own. I've got it right here. It's called the Bright Star. I believe that's the company that technically is over the game. Bright Star has built an impressive custom engine that allows rich graphics on this 4-nation map to be run natively in any browser and on mobile seamlessly. So set up for anyone in the world, and they've designed it to be ready to go. So if they need to switch it over to, say PlayStation 6 or Xbox 3 ends up being blockchain compatible or something, because they are building their engine from the ground up. One of the reasons why it's taken so long, they've got the access. Like say Unreal Engine decided, well, we're only going with PlayStation and not with Xbox. And now both of them have that capability. By doing their own engine, by doing their own guts from the ground up, they're able to make those choices and not depend on who they're going through, which is great. And that's what, yeah, it is a big deal. And that's what the final sentence of their little story on who we are is: the Bright Star engine required building from the ground up with the idea of including as many computational platforms as possible. So tablets, phones, Wiis, Switches, Xboxes. I mean, all of this stuff I think is on the table with what is possible. And when it's your engine and you're building it with kind of the open, that's another reason why you use the graphics that they do rather than the graphics that are technically they're capable of, is because if you're going to mobile, you don't maybe want Xbox style graphics. So you want it to be clean and crisp and pleasing to the eye, but maybe you don't want to have every little hair rustling on their arm like you can see in some of the top tier video games today, because depending on what kind of a system you're playing it on, it may either bog it down or it might not get that. It might not be worth it. You might not be able to tell anyway how much you're going to be able to see on some of these older smartphones. So they've just make it. Go ahead.
It makes me wonder, like, are they in talks, or will they be in talks with other games? Because if they're building this platform that obviously works, like, it doesn't sound like they would just build it just for Ember Sword. Like, if you have this great platform, just like Unreal Engine,
Yeah, but it depends on how big they're planning on making Ember Sword. If it starts off on the 4-nation island or land of Thenubis, but maybe there's a whole solar system, or maybe it is more Star Atlasly than we thought, and maybe they're maybe they just need something that big just to run theirs. I think some of these projects, and I don't think it'll come down to just one. I think some of these projects will be so massive that by the time they actually get out there and they're running full speed, they're going to have, tech style teams like maybe not Google or YouTube, but maybe some of these smaller tech companies, hundreds of employees, and they're just running to try to keep this thing going. I mean, if you've got 1,000,000+ players every day, I mean that's all you need to focus on. You don't need to focus, and especially in a game like this where the challenges change, the experiences change. You're not playing the same game, so they could be ever evolving and ever adapting, and they just need an engine that can run that. So,
God, yeah, it's so hard for I can feel my brain limiting what is actually capable.
Right, what's capable, but
like we've talked about before, game is really not the right name for these projects anymore. They are so massive and so evolutionary and changing all the time. Yeah, like you might need a staff of 300 people 24 hours a day to keep up with, the 1,000,000+ daily players you got that are constantly evolving, and let alone just kind of like Illuvium, if they're building this deal, not only running the game, but building the next levels and next worlds and, and evolution.
Possible adventures, and putting in new AI, and, going maybe new marketplaces and new in-world stuff. And I say 1,000,000 players, but that's like pretty average, whatever game, modern game. But the way we're going, and the way places like Polygon and Solana and Ethereum, the way they're building out their networks is for 1 billion+. You know what I mean? Like like you said, this isn't gaming. This isn't. Well, if you look at all the gamers right now and you say about 10% of them might play this game, we need to make sure we got room for 1 million people. They're building it to onboard a good percentage of the world's population to be able to come in here. Once you start realizing, once it starts to become mainstream, that you can come into this world and make money, it's just going to be like everything else. When YouTube started, it was like, oh, here's an interesting way to put your videos. They'll hold your videos online. You can upload your videos to this website and other people can watch it. And it was like, that's really cool. We're going to need a lot of space. But it's like, but now wrap your head around, there's a handful of creators that are putting out videos that are getting hundreds of millions of views a day. And then there's millions of creators that are putting content out every day. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you thought YouTube was going to be in 2007, when they said, oh, you can upload your cell phone video to YouTube. It's nothing compared to what it is now. And it hasn't even slowed down. We're still going, 45 degrees right up. And now, so this game started in 2018. So whatever you thought it was going to be in 2018, who knows? We don't know. They don't know. On their website, they've said it will come out when it's ready, which is a very frustrating answer as a gamer, but very curious as somebody who's just observing the market and going, that's interesting that you've been working on this for 4+ years, and you're just like, we'll put it out when we're ready.
Yeah, so. But and at the same time, and you're seeing this for the first time with blockchain gaming, because like we've talked about, we say 4 years, it seems like, dang, that's a long time, but we've never had this much transparency with gaming or whatever. So like you've said before, it might have taken Microsoft, 3, 8, 11 years to build some of these games before they roll out, and then they just roll out and you're like, oh, hey, this Halo game is fun. And they've been working on it for a decade or something. We don't know that. Right. One of the things that Ember Sword is doing very well, that any of the major projects is doing well, is even though they're not out and there's not a date, they're involving their, I don't even know what you call them. They're patrons or fans because they're not players yet because you can't play. Although
Audience at this point, I think.
Yeah, audience, but it's more than audience because obviously we're going to get into land, but they've already been able to buy land. But if you go on Twitter, they're having weekly competitions of like one of the ones I saw is like they in September is they put it out that, hey, create your favorite outfits that your clan would wear within Ember Sword or design a weapon or sword that you would like to see. So, and then they're giving away, certain awards and stuff. So they're keeping their fans and these potential players involved. So even though the game's not out and it's going to take a while, they're keeping their fans entertained and involved, which keeps the level up there, level of followers and level of excitement and everything else. Now, how long can you drag that on? I don't know, but they appear to be doing it in a bear market where a lot of people are ready or are giving up on crypto, or at least at this point in gaming and in blockchain. We know that's going to change once it turns, but
if you hold on to that thought about how they're involving their fans and keeping everybody's attention, I've got two more points to touch on. The first one is this article that I found, the stuff about the Unreal or the engine that they're doing. It does talk about having Easter eggs hidden all over, these maps. And like we were talking about, I don't know if that means, prizes or just different storylines, different adventures, or if it's stuff like the cat, like making little jokes, stuff that maybe you'll see that no one else will see, or that no one will see for a long time. Or if there's 1 million players, only 15 people see the cat talk and they're trying to explain, oh, that cat's talking, I'm telling you, it's, So it's very interesting that they're going to keep it going like that when the game's out. But then like you were just talking about them doing things right now while their game is 4 years old and not playable yet, but still managing to keep their customers, clients, audience, whatever you want to call them, engaged. I did read an article where they were giving away 300 prime plots of land in Solarwood to the first 100 people that actually get a Solarwood or an Ember Sword tattoo. They said this game will be permanent and they want the community to be fully bought in. So not only are they challenging 100 people to get this tattoo, but they're going to reward them. They're giving away 300 prime plots of land in the Solarwood to 100 people who get this tattoo. That you got to tweet at them. You got to show them the tattoo. They said there's several tattooed members on the team that's working on the Ember Sword. And so it said they're going to verify it and make sure that it looks like a real tattoo. They're going to use it, I'm sure, for their marketing. But 100 people, they'll be giving away 300 prime plots of land in the Solarwood. And I just thought that is an approach that you and I have not covered. We have not ran a project that has thrown out a get a tattoo, get 300 plots of land in this metaverse. So I like I don't want a tattoo, but I do like interesting marketing ploys like that. I love it.
Yeah, commitment, and every single person knows somebody that's gotten way worse tattoo than
right. I'll tell you what, the
sword logo or something.
Yeah, the Ember Sword logo is actually pretty cool. I mean, it's not a bad logo, and if you want some free land, now's your chance to get it. So,
speaking of free land or land, and free is always the best. I've got a clip or two for us to check out and kind of a little bit of an explanation of what is the deal with the land.
So what land is really all about is sort of about creating a shared value model, right? To help the people that are getting on board, that are buying this land, to, on the one hand, earn revenue, kind of get some of that value back that they're investing, and on the other hand, allow them to accelerate that further and entice them to do some great stuff for the game. Anyway, no, but all kidding aside, right? So through this model, what we're basically creating is we're creating this massive incentive for owners of land of any kind to bring, value generating activities to their area of the world. So what does that mean? I mean, that means for regular land, which could be held by plain old players that, that don't maybe have a huge hole in their pocket in terms of, the amount of funds that they have, but they really want to interact with the game and have fun. And they could bring their friends over to their land and go adventuring there. And, they'll find NFTs, they'll generate value, and some of that value will make their way back to them. When it comes to owning things like settlements and towns and cities, that's about offering the right kind of facilities to entice people to come over, like, getting a guild, major guilds to operate from your town or city, maybe even setting one up yourself.
So
before we were using Monday.com, our team was drowning in work.
Putting a very similar spin on it, just like a lot of the other projects, is obviously buy some land, own some land, and then you can build on it. You can, entertain people. You can basically be as creative as you want with your own piece of land, as long as it's, within reason. And I'm sure there'll be there'll be people that create, whatever, certain tools or windmills or buildings or something like we've seen with some of these other projects. Let me switch screen. And so within Ember Sword, there's four different types of land that you can actually buy. And the actual land sale happened a year ago. It was just over a year ago. They had 35,000 plots of land. All of them, you had to, basically you reserved them. It wasn't an auction. You could reserve a piece of land, and then you had 2 weeks to get it bought. This was a year ago. Now they've sold up to just short of 40,000 pieces of land, but you had four different types of land. You have the regular plot, which is basically the cheapest, the basic. You had a settlement plot. You had an actual town, which is just 4 plots of land. And then you had a city. And all of them had different capabilities on what you could actually do with them. And the descriptions are here. And this is just the embersword.com website. So you can go on there and check out some of the, what's capable with those plots of land. I thought this was kind of cool. If you own a city, you are granted the title of Duke or Duchess. So that might be from that, and I don't know how you take it, but if I buy this on Ember Sword from now on, you got to refer to me as Duke on the show,
Right.
on social media. Like that's a prestigious title. So you could go on and buy some of this land. It went pretty cheap all the way to very expensive, depending on the city. And let me switch screens here again, because it was a year ago, obviously, when the market was extremely hot. Well, a lot has changed since then. So a lot of projects, just like a lot of projects now, there are some opportunities to pick it up. Basically dirt cheap. So here's just some quick statistics on like what's happened in the last 7 days here. There's been 8. So NFT land within Ember Sword is sold 8 times within the last 7 days for a total of $900.82. That's total. So that's very inexpensive. It's an average of about $112. There are 3,416 landowners now owning a total of 39,999 plots of land. And so then it kind of breaks it down a little bit more. Price was $113. Floor price currently is 0.08. The solar wood plots of land are the only plots that you can buy right now. There's, as Ben's talked about, there's 4 other on the map that has come out available yet to sell. And I don't know if, there's also 4 nations that when you become an Ember Sword fan or potential player, you choose one of the 4 nations who you're going to side with and build your team with and so on and so forth. But right now you can only buy in solar wood. Here's some of the pieces that have sold here recently. The most expensive since the original land sale actually happened 16 days ago and was for $1,700. And it was a settlement. You can kind of see back in August, it peaked again, and then it's kind of leveled out. Here's some of the top selling plots here. Here's that $1,700 one. And then a lot of the rest of these are under $200.
That's awesome.
A couple other statistics here that were kind of cool is Discord members. There's about 70,000 members, and it's basically it's stayed at that 70,000 since August of last year, which was right around the land sale. So that's pretty good. And then you've got Twitter followers that they've got at about 80,000. So this project has a huge following, just like we've mentioned. Obviously, to have the large market cap you have to have that. You got to have people actually investing the time and money and interest in order to get that. Now, to buy some of this land, you basically have two places you can do it. They're set up on Token Trove, which I think we've mentioned a few times, but haven't talked a lot about. So you can go on Token Trove and you can buy some. As an example, here's one that's at 15 ETH. So just short of $20,000 on today's ETH price. And here's one at $246. So obviously this is a city plot, the biggest you can get, with Dutch or Duchess titles. So obviously 20,000, that's cheap for
20,000 buy your way into
Duke.
Royalty.
Yeah, I think I said Dutch, but Duke, to be called Duke, $20,000, that's well worth it if you ask me.
So you got to own land in the metaverse or your own lawn mowing company or yard company to be called the Duke.
Yeah, true statement. If your last name is Duke, then I guess that happens. But and then the regular plot, the cheapest, the smallest version is at $245. But if this is a project you're interested in, I mean, you can get in dirt cheap. And here's some different prices. So you can go on Token Trove and find it, or everybody's favorite, of course, is also offering. Yeah. So let me pull it up here for us. And here's some of the plots on OpenSea. Again, Solarwood, starting with the cheapest here, and then you can go up from there. I always like to look at the activity on OpenSea. You can see there's that spike back in August again, and then it's just kind of flatlined, which that's been pretty normal for everybody. So, so another good opportunity to buy land, and there's all sorts of different versatile things that are going to be allowed. Again, the game is not out yet, so it's kind of hard to know exactly what's going to be allowed and what you can do and so on and so forth. But if this is a game that's of interest to you, you can get in for a very cheap, a very reasonable price, which is a lot of projects, especially, again, we're talking number 7 on the largest market cap list for projects at 14.7 million. And you can buy a piece of land for under 300 on here.
And in the top 20 of the market caps, the top 20 metaverses of the market caps, it's the second most inexpensive behind Next Earth. So Next Earth is the cheapest, and then the next least expensive is Ember Sword to get into.
And that's what I've got on land, Ben. Some good opportunities if you're interested in something like this, but the future is unknown. So invest wisely.
All right. Well, my favorite thing to do with any project like this is immediately go to the tokenomics to see what kind of token they have, what kind of money I need to spend to get into it, because I like the coins more than I like the land parcels, although these prices are attractive. So I'm actually interested in land in this one because I'm kind of curious about it. But when I was looking up the tokenomics, I immediately just typed in Ember coin, looking for something like that for Ember Sword coin. And I found one that looked similar to it, but it was not it. And then I found another one. I tried a different spelling, and I found another Embers coin, and its coin name is MBRS, but it goes with the Embers. And the other one was actually called an Ember coin. After looking closely at both of those and the prices, I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. So it took some digging to get to, but I actually, once I got back to the Ember Sword website, I saw that they are going to have a token, and it's going to be on the Polygon network. and it's going to be EMBER, just an Ember. That's what it is. The Ember coin and the Embers are tokens that are not affiliated with Ember Sword at all. So this is kind of something that we haven't really talked about, but it is out there a lot. Obviously, whenever there's a Doge coin or a Star Atlas coin or something that's kind of got a little bit of hype behind it, you can go make an ERC20 token immediately and give it almost whatever name you want. So if you name it something close to it, like Ember, Embers, Ember Sword, Ember Staff, Ember whatever, you can trick a lot of people. And this is one of the things that kind of ticks a lot of people off. They'll buy into the wrong thing. And then when Ember Sword does release their coin, it's very frustrating because they thought they already owned it. So that's just a point I'd like to point out, not just on this project, but with every project. Make sure you're buying the right coin. And this coin is not even available for purchase yet. They're going to have an initial coin offering. Like I said, it's an ERC20, but it's on the Polygon network. So it'll be cheap to move around. I'm sure it's going to be used for an in-game coin. I'm excited about it for when it does come out, but don't plan on buying it right now. It's in the same vein as the rest of the game. They said it'll come out when they're ready for it. And that got Ryan and I to talking, and we were trying to decide how they had such a high market cap with no coin or currency. And so when I was looking that up, I did find that they've got a lot of private equity going into this. There's a lot of companies that have invested pretty good into it, as well as the land sales, which seems to make up most of the market cap. So right now it's at, go ahead.
I accidentally left that out. They raised like $203 million with the land sale. So.
Yeah, which is a little nervous that their market cap is under 15 million, but there's a lot. They've got it designated to growth. They've got all this different stuff, the market cap, plus they've got money going into the team, the actual hardware. They're actually buying stuff and moving around. So it's okay. And like we pointed out several times, Other Side and Sandbox and Axia have all been multi-billion-dollar market caps, and they're all down all the way now. So everybody right now, this is only about 2 weeks old, this map or this chart. So nothing to worry about. And it's just good to see that it's either holding or growing, but Ember Sword, number 7 overall. And it was interesting. You said that there was 3,416 people who own land on that website you were looking at, which is one less. So I thought, I wonder if one person sold 9 plots of land, like they were just like, I'm done, and got out of it. And that was who sold the 9, because this is about a week and a half old. And they said in the last week, now there's only 3,416 owners.
I think my article might have been older, so maybe one additional landowner.
Okay. But I just thought that was pretty cool that this information, this was just posted on Next Earth's Twitter. So it doesn't have a whole lot of information that goes with it. So you're wondering how accurate it was, but that website you were on was off by 1. So
pretty helpful.
Yeah, give or take a week or two. I think we're all right. So point is, no coin yet, but when it does come out, it will be the Ember coin, EMBER, nothing else. Make sure you're looking. Don't buy a coin that sounds like a coin that you like. Make sure you're buying the coin that you want. And I think that's it on the coins. There is no date on the ICO yet, but we will be up to date on that, because another thing that I pointed out to Ryan that I am excited about is I've never been involved in a open ICO. You know what I mean? I think that'd be cool to just jump into something that I guess I was on Next Earth, but that was when I was in England. I'm excited to see if we can do it from America, because we can't do any of that now that both of us are stateside. So hopefully Ember Sword will have an American available ICO, and it'd be cool to get in on something like that and do an episode with it.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe a live episode would be cool.
That'd be cool. But if you don't have anything else to say, I've got a trailer for next week's
just one quick thing. If you're watching this video and you've made it this far, clearly you like what we're doing. So subscribe. Thank you.
There we go.
Follow Ben's fat finger. Subscribe. We're trying to
not
get to
bad.
1,000 subscribers by our anniversary. So
That is a healthy weighted finger.
help us.
But yes,
You big boned.
we started this in January. We've got a couple months until we get there. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I know that's what every YouTuber's trying to do, but 1,000's that really cool number that YouTube really likes to see. And we're trying to do it while we're in a down market. Because if we can do it while we're in a down market, then when we start to go up this way, we've already got 1,000 people that are ready to hear the news that we're finding, to hear the information that we're ready to share. So we want to get as many subscribers right now while there's a real disinterest in the market for a couple reasons. One, we know that the people who join right now are really into crypto. And two, like I said, because when stuff starts to change, stuff starts to go fast. And I follow a lot of YouTube channels, and a lot of these YouTube channels, they don't just say the same thing as the other YouTube channel, but they'll put out 10 videos a day and they'll say the same thing in every video. And it's nice to find, if you like the way that we present this information, even if we would agree with you that we need to clean it up and tighten it up a little bit. But if you like the way that we're presenting this information, now would be a good time to kind of start following along. You can comment on our videos, tell us what you want to see, tell us what we're doing good and what we need to update and do a little bit better. And that way, when the market starts to get hot, we're ready to go. You're ready to get the information that we're putting out, and we know who's getting it. So,
Booyah.
Sound good?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here is the Treeverse. This is the metaverse project we're going to work with next week. It's called Treeverse. It's number 8 on the market cap, so right behind Ember Sword.
Action-packed.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, a lot more action than the one we just looked at. It looks like a Studio Ghibli, like the guys who made Spirited Away. That's an interesting type of animation. Looks good. And yeah, there was a lot more action in that than what we just saw today. So
No
could be
fishing,
interesting.
Chopping wood on Treeverse. Definitely
That's
not
right.
chopping wood in Treeverse. That
Yeah,
was a bad idea.
Like Ryan said, well, when I think of trees, I think of killing people. So, so yeah, it'll be interesting to dig into that. Join us next week for episode 28 or 29, but Treeverse
28.
episode 28.
Good episode, Ben.
See you later. That is not a fat finger.